Yeah. Yeah. All right. All right, good. We're not tangled up or anything. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining me for Pilates All Levels. My name is Audra, and today we're going to use a ball for a prop. If you don't have one, no problem. You can like fold a pillow a couple times or opt out entirely. As always, don't do anything that doesn't feel good for your body. That's it. We're actually going to begin in a seated position. We're going to breathe. I know, it's crazy that. So grab your prop and just allow yourself to kind of hug it gently and relax over it. And when you inhale, inhale in through your nose for about 5 counts, if that's possible for you. And then as you exhale, try to keep your exhale slower and longer. So 7 counts, 8 counts, 9 counts, 10 counts. And as you breathe, try to feel the back of your body expanding, right? So you're going to breathe into your low back, into the sides of your ribs, and just allow the tissue to gently expand. Couple more breaths. And then we're going to translate onto our stomach so we can feel this breath in a different way. So we're not going to begin with a bunch of back extension. However, I want you to be able to find the same kind of gentle expansion through your back, even when on your stomach, okay? 2 more breaths like this. And now we're going to come on to our stomach. So you're welcome to take your prop and set it to the side. Hands can come underneath your forehead or off to the side if that's more comfortable. Make sure your face is not like touching the ground. You can nod your chin and just kind of feel where your hip bones and pubic bone are. And as you breathe, try to find that same expanse into your back that you did when you were relaxed over your prop. And as you exhale, notice where the exhalation comes from, right? So if you can direct it, try to direct your expanse into your back and your sides. And as you exhale, try to exhale from the front. And again, just inhale and then exhale from the front. Last 2. Last one like this. And we get to come onto our back, bringing the prop with you. How did that feel, everyone? Were you able to feel kind of the expansion of your side ribs and your back? Great. Now place one hand on your stomach or your low ribs and one hand on your sternum. Same thing, we're just going to inhale for 5 counts through the nose. And exhale for longer than that. So maybe 7 counts, maybe 8, 9 or 10. And all I want you to do is notice which hand moves first. Without judgment, reserve judgment. And see if you can also still expand into your back and into the sides of your ribs. In an ideal world, when we're not stress breathing, our lower hand shouldn't be forced to move first, but it should be allowed to move first, followed by our upper hand, right? But if we're keeping that expanse and that like heaviness and weight through our low back and ribs, we won't be popping them and arching off the ground. 2 more breaths like this. Seeing if you can just allow the bottom hand to move first on the inhale without force. Last one. Exhale. Now bring your hands to the sides of your ribs, just the sides. And as you inhale, let your ribs push your hands away. Once again, less force, more just allowing. And on your exhale, draw the ribs away from your hands slightly. So it's more like your ribs are trying to point towards your belly button. One more. And as you allow that expansion and contraction in your ribs, do you feel how your abs naturally start to kick on without much effort? I'll take your silence as a yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Nancy. Last one like this. And now try to find a little bit of that deep abdominal or pelvic floor activation by squeezing the ball, lifting your pelvic floor, and sinking your low abs to the ground. Or pick one or two of those three cues. Exhale, you can sink your low abs down. Or you can think of your pelvic floor just gently activating with the squeeze of the ball. Or you can even think of your hip bones coming together, much like your ribs did, right? Last one like this. Hold the engagement. We're gonna rock into a little pelvic tilt. So sink your belly button down, rock onto your low back, and then rock back into neutral and relax. So if you're like, what's a posterior tilt or what's an imprint? We are just letting our low back lengthen towards the floor as our pubic bone points more towards the sky. And then we rock back to neutral, which is where the hip bones and pubic bone are on one plane and the natural curves of your spine are present. Couple more. If you have trouble moving into this range, place your hands on your hip bones, pull them toward your face, and then push them away from your face gently. Not at 100. Two more. And then away. Last one. And hold. Now let's pay attention to our feet, shall we? Push your feet into the ground and feel how your legs just kick on, like those muscles just start to activate, yeah? Now peel your spine up one bone at a time, coming into your bridge, making sure your ribs are still gently drawing towards your belly button, squeezing those glutes, and then melt through your throat, sternum, ribs, low back, and hips on the way down. Now on the way up this next time, see if you can just create a little bit of fluidity and maybe not as much force to get to the same place. As we inhale, expand into your ribs and low back, melt and roll all the way down. Trying to find ease of motion through your spine and hips on the way down especially. Last two. If at the top of your bridge, you're really internally rotating through your shoulders, it's okay to let your palms face up, to let your collarbones kind of widen here. Last one like this. At the top of your bridge, think about pulling your heels towards you so your hamstrings kick on more. Squeeze those glutes so your hips open a little more, making sure your low back is not compensating, right? So if you're like, well, I don't know how to tell, if you mostly feel your low back, lower your spine some, squeeze your glutes more. Now we take one hip, we're just gently gonna tip it towards the floor a little baby bit, and press into the floor with that foot to bring your hips back to center. Other side. So notice if your hips are doing a big sway from side to side. If they are, it's not a big deal, but see if you can just minimize the sway 10%. See if you can find more of a rotation. And active press up. And then see if you can find your obliques to help you just a little bit. So the hip that's dipping down, when it comes up, think of the opposite rib pulling that hip bone towards it. And then the other side. And you can roll all the way down, one bone at a time. Let your knees sway to one side, letting that back relax. Inhale into that side. Exhale from the ribs, dragging the knees back. Other side. Allowing that hip to slide away from your face. And then exhale from the ribs. Now, if this is where you are today, great. If you'd like more challenge, float your legs to tabletop. You can always tap your toes together, and your arms can come into a T or goal post, keeping the ribs gently closed. Let both knees start to go to one side as one hip lifts. Inhale, exhale, drag the ribs back. Legs come along for the ride. Other side. And then if you'd like, of course, you can hold and then extend your legs, dragging them back. And just notice if your spine tries to respond, right? Or if your shoulders try to respond. If they do, it's not the end of the world. But if you use your breath a little bit more, maybe you can just cue your nervous system to be just the teeniest bit more stable. Last one, each side, allowing your neck and shoulders to melt into the floor, which depending on where you hold your tension might be tricky, right? And bring it back. If you're in tabletop, great. If your legs are on the floor, great. We're going to bring your hands behind your head, spiraling your elbows slightly forward, shoulder blades draw down your back. Now let's try two different versions of this. On your first exhale and lift, you're just going to think of shortening the distance between your ribs and your hips. And then glance down at your low abs to see if kind of a doming happened. If it did, that just means that maybe your rectus abdominis did more than your transverse. Head comes down. On your next one, imagine that there's a beach ball you're trying to lift up and over, and see if the same thing happened or if it happened a little less. And slowly lower. Another way to engage that transverse abdominis, even with movements like this, are thinking of hollowing out through the front of your body before you move, or lifting your pelvic floor. Now, once again, if your feet are on the floor, great. Sometimes, if hip flexors like to do a lot of work, having the feet on the floor can allow the hamstrings to kick on more, which sometimes can allow the abs to do more work. Last two. Last one, and hold. Bring your hands forward. And imagine pushing your fingertips into a wall to help you curl maybe a tiny bit higher. Fingertips lift up, up, up. Interlace your hands behind your head. Hold for a second, and then slowly lower. Let's do that a couple more times. Good. And up, and lift, and hold for a second, and then slowly come back down. Give me 3 more. I'm just watching you guys. Good, good, yeah. Beautiful. Nice. And when your head comes down, your elbows can still stay in your peripheral vision, just so you don't have to reset each time. And bring it up, hands behind your head, and hold. Now, if your feet are on the floor, lift your heels, and then exhale, float your legs to tabletop. If your legs are up, great. Now, holding this position, we're going to let the knees start to go away from our face, tapping our toes towards the ground, and then exhale, float the legs back up. Now, if you have your prop, squeeze it a little bit to help engage those inner thighs, trying to make sure that you're using that deep abdominal engagement to keep your hips from really moving, right? If you need to put your head down, is that okay? Yeah, love it. Now, the only thing I'm gonna say is if you're in neutral, great, stay in neutral. If you're in an imprint, great, stay in imprint. Whatever works best for you and your spine and your back comfort. I just want you to be able to maintain whichever version you need to do. We have 2 more like this. And last one. Go ahead, bring the feet down, head comes down. Take the ball out from between your knees. We're gonna slide it underneath our hips real quickly. So first, just see where you are. If you're pretty arched, allow the weight that's on your neck to be on your shoulders instead. And hopefully that will allow your entire spine to kind of relax. If not, move the ball a tiny bit away from you. Think about the ribs sliding towards your belly button and just gently press your whole sacrum into the ball. Like you want to pop the ball. And you might not believe I'm going to say this, but don't squeeze your butt. Don't clench your cheeks. They're soft right now. So slide the belly button down, press your sacrum into the ball. Everybody feel that deep abdominal connection a little bit? Good. Couple more. Sometimes it can be hard to feel our transverse abdominis, even harder than to say it, right? Last one. Hold that, and you can float one leg to tabletop and switch your legs midair. Now, you have options. I personally like to push my foot into the ground because it cues my hamstrings and glutes to work a little bit more. If you don't have the problem that your posterior chain is a little sleepy, you don't have to push down. You can just tap the toe. If you'd like, you can even push one foot away from you, straightening it towards a wall, and then the other side. Good. Beautiful. Now, if you'd like a little bit more challenge than that, send both feet away from you, hold, let one knee come in, and then send that foot out towards the other foot, and then allow the opposite knee to fold in. So it's the same move, but the focus is on the out for the stability. If you try it and you're like, that doesn't work for me, go back to one reach at a time. Good. If you'd like more challenge, your arms can come up towards the sky. And then you won't have the extra stability of your arms pressing onto the floor, right? If you'd like more challenge, of course, your arms can start to travel overhead, just making sure that your ribs don't come with it. 2 more. Unless you need a break, and in which case, break time. And then both knees can come in. Reach both feet away from you. Maybe those arms come overhead if they are up, and then curl both knees in. If the arms are down, great. You're still pressing both feet away and allowing them to fold in. Now, if you get to a perfectly straight leg and all of a sudden you're like, well, I don't feel my abs anymore, don't fully straighten your legs, right? You can keep them ever so slightly bent, because we're just trying to get to the end range of that abdominal challenge. So if you can go 2/3 of the way straight and you feel your abs like crazy, and then you fully straighten your legs and you no longer feel your abs, all that means is that a muscle that's a little bit easier to find is taking over, right? Give me just a couple more here. If those arms are up, they can go in the opposite direction. And 2. Last one. Bringing your legs in. You can hug your knees towards your chest and gently circle your thighs in the socket. And then other direction. Go ahead, bring your feet to the ground, lift your hips, set your prop to the side, and find that nice flat position. And hopefully having your hips on the ball, if you have any tightness in your glutes, just helped relax it a little bit. Hands can come back behind your head, elbows come back into your periphery, curl your collarbones forward, and come into your lift. Now float one leg to tabletop. Flex the foot, push it away from you, away, 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 and then drag it in, getting that hamstring to help you. And reach, lengthening through the front of your thigh. Good, yeah. And head can be up or down. Good. Beautiful. Good, nice job, everybody. 2 more on this side. Just trying to find the length through the front and back of the leg, and then we get to do the other side. So we push, and if you were switching back and forth already, just keep switching, it's fine. And just notice how one side feels in comparison to the other, right? Maybe one side is really easy, and maybe both sides are really easy, and that's cool. 2 more. Last one. Now, you have so many options, but I'm going to start with the more moderate version. Both legs come up, push one foot away, rotate to the other side, hold, take the opposite hand as leg, push it into that knee to help hold for a second, finding that isometric contraction. Nancy, push your leg more into your hand. That way? Yeah. Yeah, and then other side. We hold and push, yeah. Now head can be up, which is great. Head can also be down. So it's the same move. So what we're doing here is the arm is pushing into the leg to create more tension through the abs. However, the leg is pushing into the hand to get those glutes to kick on. So if the leg lifts, I need it to be heavy. Both hips stay heavy the whole time. Yeah, beautiful. So you're trying to find resistance through the arm, leg, abs. How's this feeling, everyone? So good? Yeah. Same. But if your hip flexors are like, let me help more than I should, you can drag the heel in instead. Couple more. 3. 3. 2 more. Last one like this. And now we're gonna add a little bit of tempo. Don't worry, you can have a little quick break, head down, knees in. Take your head to one side. Inhale. Exhale. Other side. Inhale. Exhale. Now, hands can come behind your thighs. Push your thighs into your hands so you feel those hamstrings kick on a little, yeah? And squeeze your inner thighs together like you're trying to pop a balloon. Now, hands can come behind your head if you're coming into your lift. Now, we're gonna do 3 a little faster and then hold. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, hold. And then again, 1, 2, 3, hold. Notice we are holding to the same side, yeah? 1, 2, 3, hold. And again, 1, 2, 3, hold. Now we're gonna start the opposite side, come back to center. 1, 2, 3, and hold. Notice how that hold is when that muscle really kicks on, yeah? 1, 2, 3, and hold. This is why 1, 2, 3, hold. That's why isometrics can be so powerful, right? 1, 2, 3, hold. And then we only have one more. You're all amazing. You're all champions. And hold. And hug your knees in. Nice job. Hands behind your thighs. Go ahead, come into your chest lift and press your hands and thighs together, and then start to get just a little bit of movement to come up. Yeah, good. Scoot towards the front of your mat, and you can face me if you want. Yeah, hi. So think about placing your hands onto your shins and press down, good, so you can sit up nice and tall. Now, before we do anything, we're just gonna really find a little bit of shoulder movement. So bring your shoulders up to your ears and then just straight down. Hey, Nancy, squeeze your shoulder blades together a little bit for me. Just squeeze your shoulder blades together a little. Stick your chest out for me. There you go, good. Now, keeping that lift up and down. 2 more. So if your shoulders are coming forward in a protracted position, I want them wider, like you're taking off a big jacket. That looks good, Jack. Good. Now, we're gonna let them come forward a little and then let them come back. Good. And forward and back. Nice. Do you feel how when the shoulders come back, it kind of makes you flatten out through your thoracic and lift your collarbones more? Yeah, which is great for when we're trying to stand up nice and tall. Is tricky for roll-ups, right? Because if we're doing a roll-up and we're in this retracted position, it's hard to round. So go ahead, find your protracted position, hands come forward. If you want to straighten your legs, you can. Otherwise, we're gonna curl and start to roll back one bone at a time. Hands can come overhead, good. And then fold, curl, roll forward. Yeah, peeling everything up. Yeah, good. And again. Now, as we come up, if there's a moment where there's so much tension that you're like, I can't get up, and so you try to force it, instead, don't worry about it. Up is not necessarily like what we have to do. Think about rolling forward. Think about exhaling. You can also think about just letting that spine move, right? So anything you can do to tell your nervous system, hey buddy, you're safe, it's fine, is gonna help. Yeah. I think I want you to bend your knees just this far and see if that helps. Yeah. So I, for example, have tight hip flexors. And so when I try to come up, If my legs are fully extended, because of where the psoas attaches, it won't let me like imprint my spine. So that little bend of the knee just lets the spine move a little bit easier and freer. Better, Nancy. Good. Nice job, Jack. Too late. Good job, Jack. I've missed your sass. Good. Good, everybody. Yeah, that looks like it's a little bit easier. Good. Yeah, all right, now we have options. We have the option of a teaser variation. I know, it's so exciting. We're gonna start one leg at a time. So come on up, slide one foot in. Maybe it stays on the ground, maybe it lifts. No big deal. And then let's do the other side. So slide one foot in, maybe it stays on the ground, maybe it lifts. And if those feel pretty good and you'd like more challenge, slide both feet. Yeah. Yeah. As long as you're not pulling from your back, you can absolutely do both if you want. Yeah, that looks great. Now, if you're like, that's too easy, I'd like more challenge, please. Keep your legs straight, but think about squeezing the inner thighs together. Good. And then pushing the feet away. Good. We have just a couple more. Last one. And then everybody come all the way down. Yeah, abs on fire, I know. Now extend your legs if they're bent. Squeeze those inner thighs. We're gonna bring our hands forward. We're not rolling up this time. You're gonna push one foot away from you. Maybe it starts to lift, yeah. And then back down. Other side. Good. Think of it extending from your ribs as if it's a shower curtain rod. Yeah. And again. Now, if this feels good, try both feet. So inner thighs together. They just barely start to float. Good. Last one. Now, if this feels good, this is where you hold because we inhale, exhale. If this is not where you want to be, you can bring one foot up and then the other foot. If you want to bend your knees, great. Head down, awesome. Head down, feet down, fantastic. Any variation you want to do is fine by me. As long as it feels good in your body. Almost there. Inhale, exhale. Last one. Hug your knees in towards your chest and gently rock from side to side. Nice job, everyone. Yeah. Go ahead, hands behind your thighs. Roll up. We're going to come onto our forearm. Now, if you're like, I hate forearm planks, guess what? That's okay. You can always come onto your like arm with your head down instead. So if you're on your elbow, push into the floor to lift your ribs and extend your top leg. Glance at your top leg and make sure that the foot is not forward of your hip bone, okay? Now imagine just pushing that foot down into the ground so much that that inner thigh kicks on, so much that if you kept pushing it into the ground, you'd eventually lift your hips. Good. And then push the foot away from you, maybe it starts to lift. Now, if you hiked your hip up, Try to reach the foot away. Yeah, Catherine, bring your heel back just a tiny bit. Yeah, there you go. And if you rotate your top hip bone forward towards Nancy, just your hip bone. Yeah, there you go. So think about this, rotating forward a little. Yeah, there you go. And heel back towards there. That'll be just a little bit more glute. Good. And then press down, 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 down. Elizabeth, reach your foot away or your hip away. Yes. Good. And you can, are you pushing down or just tapping? Push, 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 push. Maybe you lift. Yeah. Do you feel that inner thigh now? Good. And then reach. Good. Now, if you're down, you're still going to drive that foot down as if you're going to lift, but it might not lift you, right? That's okay. Good. Push, push, push. 2. Yeah, beautiful. And last one. And then bring your foot in line with your hip bone. Imagine there is a door behind you and you just want to close the door with your heel and then relax. You want to close the door with your heel and relax. Boop. If you're down, great. If you're up, great. I personally need my foot lower if my torso is higher. So if that's for you as well, fine. Good. And then try to keep the abs nice and contained, because it's about getting that glute to fire rather than going for a large range, right? The door is right behind you. Boop. 2 more. Good. Nice. Last one. And then you can let that foot slide forward. Point, drag it back like you're dragging it through wet sand. Good. When's the last time any of us went to the beach? That's what I want to know. I'm like, that is why I stayed at home. Right? Good. Give me just a couple more. Nice. Last one. And then we get to circle. Everybody's glutes starting to tire just a little baby bit. Take a break if you need to. Otherwise, tiny little circles. Now, let's think about first just the foot, and then think about the thigh bone stirring in the socket, and that is what is creating that movement. Good. Foot back more, Nancy. There you go. Good. 2, and then reverse, and once again, you can be up or down. 4, 3, 2. Last one, bring that foot down. You are welcome to smack that hip out if you like. Good. Nice job, everybody. Bend your knees in front of your face. Well, in front of your hips. That's what I mean. If your head is up, bring it down for a moment. We're going to roll that top hip bone forward so that top knee is pointing forward of that bottom knee. Now, you can keep your heels down if you like, but I prefer to bring mine into an elevated position. Top hip lengthens away from your face. Squeeze your heels together. Bring that top knee up. Now, it's less about bringing the knee so much to the sky. It's more just finding your end range, right? We squeeze and hold. Think about the spiral of the thigh bone, the widening of the sits bones, and then the knee can slowly lower. Exhale. Good. Then allow it to slowly lower. Now, if you're like, well, I want my feet elevated, but this is just hard, you can always use your prop to prop your feet up, or use it as a pillow. Right? Good. We have just a couple more here. 4. As you do this, if this top knee keeps sliding back, reach it forward, keep those ribs drawing towards that belly button. Good. Last one. Nice job. Go ahead, slide the feet out, and then rock your top hip bone back, bringing your ribs with you. Now this time, if you glance at your feet, you should be able to see them. Top hand can press into the floor slightly, making sure the shoulder is just gently relaxed out of the ear. Push your hand into the floor, and you can lift your feet. Good. And slowly lower. And again. Yeah. Now, hopefully you're behind your greater trochanter, because it doesn't feel great if you're like on your thigh bone. If you feel your back, make sure that you've just rocked back a teeny bit. And if it's a little bit too tricky, you can always put one foot on the floor and just lift your bottom inner thigh. Good. Yeah. Two more. Now remember, everybody's proportions are different, so this is going to look a little different and feel different for everybody. Good. Last one, hold. Take that top hand, reach it towards your feet, and then come back down. Yeah. And then press the feet, reach your top hand. Now, if you're on your elbow, theoretically, you should be able to do this without the elbow, but if you need a little assist, I'm not mad about it. You can also bring that hand to the ground and slide it in. Yeah. Two. Last one. Good. Nice job, everybody. Let's go to the other side. Nobody's as excited about the other side as I am. Yay. So once again, you can be down on your arm. You can be in this little half plank position. We just lift and extend that top leg. Now first, push it into the ground. Don't just rest it there. Push. Nancy, bend your bottom knee. Yeah, there you go. And then you can push so much that maybe your hips lift. Maybe they don't, and that's okay too. And then you can brush that foot out, yeah. And then press. So the reason we're trying to find length through our spine here, a couple reasons, right? One, we should, in theory, be able to maintain a neutral spine if we need to, right? But also, we have synergist muscles, right? And so right now we are trying to get that glute to do its job. But sometimes our synergist, our helper muscles are like, oh, let me do this for you. And so then we're more likely to use like our QL or our TFL as opposed to the glute. So we're trying to keep everything long, keep that foot slightly behind us. Good. Two more. Yeah, that looks great. Does that feel more glute? Yeah. And then hold. We're just gonna push your heel into the ground. Yeah, breaks are great. Like you're trying to close a door and close the door. Now, once again, you can always be down here, no problem. And just squeeze, press, good. Just a few more. Still trying to draw your belly button in, or at very least, be aware of if your spine is moving with your foot, right? So we're trying to find glute activation, hip opening. If our back is doing the work and you're like, well, I feel my back, see if you can maintain more of a neutral or even a posterior tilt. Last one, and then we allow that foot to come forward. Point, drag it back through wet sand, and then fold, then push. Once again, you can be up high if you want. Good. And reach through that toe, through the crown of your head. Beautiful. Couple more. Reach, reach, reach. I can tell you're all trying to find center so you can breathe through the glute activation. Nancy, don't look down at your feet, look forward. Thank you. Last one, good, that looks beautiful. And then we can do tiny circles. If you need a break, take a break. Otherwise, tiny little circle. Good, beautiful. If you're here, it's fine. Just trying to keep the ribs gently drawing towards the belly button. Thigh bone stirs gently in the socket. If you're like, oh, I feel the front of my leg Bring your leg back in space slightly, rotate your hip bone forward slightly, and then reverse. Sometimes, our body is so interesting, you guys. Sometimes just moving a fraction of an inch can change which muscles are working, right? 2, last one, bend your knees in. Bring that top knee forward, widen through your sits bones, lift your feet, and we spiral that thigh bone in the socket, good. Stick your tail feathers out a little, like you're sticking your butt out, yeah. And then, good. Yeah, how's that feel? Is that a little bit better? Good. Nice. Elizabeth, roll your top hip bone forward towards Catherine just a little bit, yeah. Yeah, is that a little bit more glute? Good. Beautiful. Couple more. Good. Good. Nice. Now, if you feel yourself rocking back when that leg comes up, see if you can keep that hip complex nice and still. 2. Last one, everybody. Slide both feet away from you. Close your ribs, rock back behind your greater trochanter. Top hand comes down. Once again, we're hugging in a little bit with that armpit. It's not a grip, but we're trying, as the feet lift, to not push from the neck. So if for any reason both feet lifting doesn't feel good, this is the perfect opportunity to just lift one. Yeah, good. Nice. Elizabeth, if you bring your feet ever so slightly forward and rock back half an inch, yep. Yeah, is that a little, good. Good. Few more. Think about not just the inner thigh lifting, but also the obliques on both sides stabilizing you. If you have a foot down, you're still trying to find the obliques on both sides. 2 more. Last one, hold it up, top hand comes up, and we reach and look at our feet. Yeah, and then come back down, and then we reach and look at our feet. Now, if you have a foot down, hey, guess what? If you have a hand down, fantastic. Good. We have just a couple more, unless you just decide you really want to keep going. 2. Last one. And we're coming onto our stomachs. Head down, sway from side to side for a second. And I want you to try to find that same breath you found earlier, right? Where you allow your back and sides to move, and then exhale from the front. One more. Now bring your hands into a goalpost position as if you just did a lat pull, right? So we want to engage those armpit muscles. Squeeze your glutes a little. Maybe your feet lift, maybe they don't, but mostly it's about that glute engagement. Press your hands and elbows into the floor to spiral your collarbones forward. Yeah. Good. Tuck your tailbone for me just a little bit. Yeah. Good. Now, if when we lift our hands, you don't feel your back grip, you're in a great position. Inhale, exhale, and then down. If you felt your back go, "Gah," that means maybe you came up too high, right? So think about those armpits. Think about lengthening through your ears, lengthening through your toes. Inhale, exhale. So yeah, and down. And again. Elizabeth, you can do bird dog. To try to get those multifidus muscles, yeah. Nancy, make sure you press into your hands and elbows to spiral your collarbones up. Good, belly button in, yeah. And then you lift the arms. Once you're at your end range, yeah. Good. Last one like this. And then hands can come down. We're just gonna do little flutter kicks, right? 5, 4, feeling if you're swaying from side to side or if you're pretty stable. If you're pretty stable, you can, of course, bring your arms forward and do opposite arm and leg, or float and flutter both. If all of a sudden the waves are crashing, that could mean that your tiny stabilizers are like, well, we'll see, right? So I would recommend then going one at a time. Last 2, and then press yourselves back into a rest position. Hands come up and over to one side. Push your hips away, and as you breathe, inhale into that side. And then other side. And I know what you guys are thinking. Audra, you forgot planks. No, I didn't. Come on to all 4s. Now, if for any reason it doesn't feel okay to be on your hands, you can always, always, always come onto your forearms or use your wrists. No, not your wrists, your fists. Similar word. If you're on your hands, think about opening a pickle jar, right? So you've got that little external rotation. Fingertips have some pressure in them as well. Lift your belly button, slide one foot out. Push into that foot, slide the other foot out. Good. And then you can bring one knee underneath you, reach it back out. Other side. Good. Nice. Good. You can always just hold your plank too, right? And on your forearms, it's a little harder to bring the knee underneath. So you can either just tap the knee down, or you can slide the foot out to the side a little bit. 2 more. Last one. Knees down. Press yourself into that rest position. Now go ahead, come on to forearms. Take your knees back slightly. Now notice how spread out you kind of are. You're gonna curl your tailbone towards your face, lifting your ribs, come into a knee plank. That's it. And then take yourself back. Curl, come into a knee plank on your forearms. Yep, and back. And then hold. Now, see if you can slowly let yourself come into a tiny little extension and then find your knee plank. If that does not feel all right on your low back for any reason, don't do it. You'll go back and you could even come into a hand knee plank, okay? Good. 2 more. Last one, come into your knee plank, tuck your toes under. Last plank, and hold. If you want to be on your hands, you can. 5, 4, good. Use those glutes and inner thighs as well. Knees down. Press yourselves into a rest position. We get to come to standing. However you need to is fine by me. But if you can come through your downward dog, great. And just relax over your legs for a second. See where you are today, right? And just gently nod your head yes, with ease. And then gently with ease, let it shake no. Push into your feet, lift your ribs, scoop and roll all the way to standing. We're gonna get a little bit of balance. So bring your heel to your toe. Now, you might notice I am not on my mat because that is just an added balance challenge. So if you're like, yeah, I got this, great. If you're like, come off of the mat, right? Now feel like actually just let your feet move, right? Sometimes if we let our feet move with intention, it's easier to then balance, right? So when we push into the floor, if our feet start to move, don't fight it, let it happen, okay? Push into the floor, lift up, yeah. If you're feeling good and you want more challenge, try closing one eye or both eyes. Yeah. And then of course your first line of defense is opening your eyes, right? You can even look over one shoulder and then the other shoulder. Yeah. Good. And then we get to do the other side. Remember a long time ago, okay, find that, let the feet move. My boyfriend's kid, I think was like 12 at the time, was like, this is easy. And I told them to close their eyes and they immediately fell into the door frame. And I was like, you take the visual out of it, it's a little bit harder. So if it's a lot harder than you feel like it should be, just open your eyes for a second, breathe. A couple more. And then bring your feet together, open your eyes if they were closed, let your shoulders slide up towards your ears, just let gravity help them down. And again, last one. Nice work, everybody. Give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you so much for joining me today. You're awesome. It was so good to see you. And it was great to have you join us.